Welcome to Conversations on the Edge with Tom and TJ, where Generation X and Millennial talk about restoration, the Edge version 3, and the world.
Welcome, everybody. Very honored to be joined here today with Warner Cruz. And of course, TJ is joining us. TJ hasn't been on for the last few episodes, so welcome back, TJ.
Yep.
He's been busy with the family stuff and enjoying life and the new camper and RV and all that stuff. But we'll get into that because we're on the verge of Memorial Day weekend, and I know that you got a lot going on. And so we always start out with something fun and exciting going on in our lives. And so Warner, you are our guest of honor. And so what's exciting?
God is so good. Been blessed so many ways. And so this summer, just planning on spending some quality time with the kids. They all finished school. Today is their last day. So this is our start of summer. So we're going to pick up my son at 2:30 with my other two kids. We're going to go get some ice cream and then start planning out some fun things that I have in store for them this summer. Try to get overseas and visit. I have a priest, our old pastor. He's formalizing a trip to Poland.
Nice.
And, I was fascinated when I was younger. I wrote a paper on Auschwitz, and I was just fascinated with the Holocaust. And I've never been, and I just think my kids are 17, 15, and 13. And so for us to go and take a trip together and kind of get them to see, how big, how serious the world can be in certain times in our history, I think it's important. So just looking for a good summer. Looking forward for a good summer.
No, that'll be a awesome trip. Everybody that I know that's been to Poland and everybody that I know that has been to Auschwitz, they tell me it's life-changing.
Yeah.
Because it's where, reality sets in that this really happened, and we have to be careful that it never happens again. In fact, that's the moniker over the gate when you go in there. I can't remember the German words. It says those who don't remember the past are doomed to repeat it. And so it's a very, very powerful. That'll be a very powerful trip. Awesome. I haven't been there yet. I've been to a lot of countries. I haven't been to Poland yet. I just had a friend that went from Florida, and it was a fantastic trip. Beautiful country, beautiful people.
Yeah, Father Sławek, he's obviously Polish. We're going to go by his hometown. His mom is going to be there to cook us all a good meal. So I just think it'll be a great, wholesome, fun trip.
No, it's going to be fantastic. I can't wait to hear all about it. TJ, what's going on in your life, buddy?
Similar to Warner, my kid's last day of school was today. They surprised all the parents at the ceremony and made us line dance with the kids to a Christian version of the Cotton Eye Joe. So that was pretty fun. But we're gearing up. We got the new fifth wheel camper, and we're gearing up to leave next week to go to the Panhandle of Florida, just north of Navarre Beach. And those times are super important to me to just put my phone down and get away from work and spend it with my kids because they're 7 and 9, and I only get to do it once. So we're gonna do some fishing and go out and hopefully see the Blue Angels one day, practice, and
Nice.
just see what kind of adventures we can get into.
Awesome. It's like you were saying, like I never had kids because I think I gave my life to restoration and too much time on the road, and I never wanted to be an absentee father. And because of those moments, because you come home and then you're going to graduation, it's like, what happened?
Yeah.
And so enjoy it because life is short. And you get to be my age, and it's like I look at things, and it's just like now you look at things, and it's like dang, Tom, that was 40 years ago, or that was 30 years ago. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, shout out to all the families, all the owners of
Yes.
restoration companies that are married and have children to
Yes.
try to grow an organization. I'll tell you the success that we had at JC Restoration when I bought my dad out. I was single and I would love being on the road. I loved large loss. I loved leading at teams with the trailers and the, but
Yep.
we grew fast because that was my girlfriend. That was my passion to
Yep.
have children, to be able to be in a lucrative business like what we do, and still spend the time and be there for those important moments like TJ's day today.
Yep.
That's tough. Shout out and kudos to all the parents that run restoration companies like that.
Absolutely. And we're coming up on Memorial Day weekend. So a shout out to all of our people that have served our country and are serving our country. That's a tough one too. Well,
Yeah.
you talk about two professions that are really tough on families. The military and restoration. I never really thought about those things as being like that, but they're very, very similar.
Yeah.
So
Well,
Warner,
Tom, you were just at the Indy at the HICO event where
yeah,
congratulations, you received a great award for 40 years in this business.
yeah,
And just walking around there, the amount of military, it was so, it's always as much an honor to me to thank our military, our service people, than them accepting it as graciously as they do. It was a lot of fun.
yes, it really is, and seeing them, it's just really. It's really nice to go up and just give them a fist bump,
Yeah.
or say thank you. It's just really, really cool, and it's great honor for us. I know it can be a job for them, but thank you for doing that job.
Yeah.
So Warner, let's circle back and talk a little bit about JC Restoration for those of you that don't know JC Restoration, and I can tell you that my first because I lived here in Florida for 32 years. Well, for the past 32 years, this month is my 40th year and my 32nd year here in Florida. And I was working with Munters. I started with Munters, and that's the reason why I moved here. And then after about 4 years with Munters, became the catastrophe operations manager. So I was working out of Chicago, and I would drive. What freeway is that from O'Hare out
90?
to 90? I would come out on 90 to 355 up to
Glendale Heights, right?
Glendale Heights, where our office was, for next to about 14 years. I did that. And I would drive by this building that was right there and see JC Restoration on it. And I never got to meet Warner until a few years later. But I think our first time that we did business together was a document job. I think there was a document job that we had in our document center from JC Restoration. But I was honored years later to get a tour of your facility, and I'm going to give you a lead in here, Warner. But if you did not get a chance to see Warner's facility in Chicago, it was fantastic. It was spotless. I think you had a barbershop there once a week. You had a rec room. You had massage. I think everything that you could possibly have. And just a very, very tight knit work crew that was second to none. And I mean, this place was spotless, and it was beautiful, and a beautiful training room, rotunda, whatever, that half shell was just really, really cool. And so, Warner, tell us your, this a little history of your dad, you, and JC Restoration.
Tom, I first of all, thanks for the kind words. I mean, God is so good, and it's amazing. I've always been a student of successful business people, successful business companies, the Google concept, how we're nothing without our team. We're nothing without our employees. And
Yep.
the guys that are sweeping the shop floor are just as important as the $10-20 million a year salesperson. We all need each other. And our motto at JC has always been, and my dad came up with this, you be a part of the puzzle. You're a part of the puzzle. This puzzle that we're trying to put together, every one of us is a part of it. Humble beginnings. My parents started in this country, immigrants, came here illegally, started working with a janitorial company. I remember this Jewish man, Mort Neckman, who's since passed, started a company called Help Services in Chicago. And he got a call, fire loss. He went to my dad, who was in charge of the janitorial side, and said, "Hey, have you ever cleaned fire restoration, ever done any fire cleaning?" And as most Latinos do, we say yes. And so my dad, went out. My mom was in charge of the cleaning ladies. My dad was in charge of the pack out crew. And they did their first restoration job. And this gentleman, Mort Neckman, was such an inspiration to me as a child, because he threw picnics and parties and Christmas parties where he would bring everybody in, and Santa Claus always came, and he was so generous. And as a child, you felt so proud that my dad worked for Help Services because of how much Mort loved the employees' kids. And it made such an impact. And I remember they had a 20,000 square foot warehouse. I remember riding my big wheel throughout furniture, and they didn't have vaults at the time. They would just stack furniture, washing the trucks, and such great memories. And believe it or not, as we grew, Mort was always on my shoulder. What would Mort do? Our picnics were just like his. Our Christmas parties were just like his. We always tried to incorporate, I always tried to incorporate family into our events, so that when we call our employees at 2 a.m, the wives, the spouses, the husbands, the kids, they're all like, "Dad, be safe, go get them." Always they were a part of, that late night call.
Yep.
So when one year we were lucky enough to host the NATO conference, and Chicago hosted a NATO event, and there were helicopters and police officers, SWAT vehicles that were stationed at my facility all weekend long. We got to see helicopters come in and out. So that next Christmas, that next picnic, we rented helicopters, and we gave helicopter rides to our employees and their families. And that was just part of our DNA. And I think our success throughout the years, it started with humble parties and picnics and Christmas events that my parents would throw for the employees to when we started renting helicopters. It was always about getting everyone part of our success.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have people that buy in, when you have employees that'll be the first ones to say, "Hey, that new hire, he's not going to make it. He shows up late. He doesn't work as quickly as we do." Once you have employees helping you in that scenario, you've done something right.
Yep.
So it's although I was the leader of the team, I had great staff that really owned the company without any ownership. And they always helped create that environment that was so blessed. It's been so blessed. So in '82, my dad bought the company bought equipment from Mort Neckman when he decided to get out of it. I always worked with my parents throughout high school and in college. I studied Japanese, French, and I spoke Spanish. So I wanted to be an international business guy. And I worked in Japan for 3 years. But every weekend when I'd call Mom and Dad, my dad, I'd say, "Dad, how's the business?" "Oh, everything's fine." "Hey, Mom, how's the business?" "Oh, this business is killing your dad." So after 3 years, I decided to come back from Japan to sell this business. I didn't understand why anyone would want to be in this restoration business. We had T-shirts as uniforms, broken down trucks. My dad never really saw the value in software and equipment and networking. And when I tried to sell it, nobody would buy it. So met a gentleman named Mark Valentino, who's since passed, Valentino Restoration down in Plainfield. He introduced me to DKI and to Phil Rosebrook Sr., who has recently passed. Yeah. He was one of my best friends and mentors forever. he actually came in and started taking me around and showing me other restoration companies. And I remember the first night we went and visited a restoration DKI member out of Minnesota. My dad and I stayed up all night saying, "Wow, this business is awesome, and you could actually make money at it." We started buying equipment and software, and we started using, the best of the best consultants, and and the company started to grow. And I just fell in love with it. Never wanted to leave it, and it's been able to give me everything I've always wanted in traveling, in leading a team, in perfecting my Spanish, in using my business skills. It's been such a blessing. And in 21, decided to sell the Blue Sky just because the opportunity was just such a great thing for my family. We gifted a bunch of ownership to thank a lot of my key employees for the success. And now, I'm kind of on the sidelines. I'm kind of watching the company now in Chicago grow. And it's easy to sit on the sidelines and kind of be, critical of decisions that are being made. But, the company that bought me, Blue Sky, they're a monster. And can't make decisions based on one location. They have to make decisions on all locations. So it's a concept that's a little different for me, but I'm supportive, and this industry is changing quickly. So, it's interesting what the future holds for this industry.
It really is changing, right in front of our face, over the last 18 months. The beautiful thing, though, Warner, is it gives you, selling the Blue Sky has now given you that time to, now you can go to Europe for a month and enjoy your family, and because that's what it's all about. In the end, we all have to bring it in for a landing. And what I like to say is like, all right, so we're on the approach. And so, and we want to, spend that, as a quality of time as possible. And I know TJ, you're very focused on your team right now too, as you're beginning to grow, and you're a new, in restoration now. How many? 6 years? Is it 6 years now?
As an owner, 6 years.
Yeah. And so you're going through that where you're, focused on your team. So tell us, what's happening with, the growth of your guys, and how that works, how that helps you build your business.
Well, Warner mentioned something that really sticks out to me, and it's your team's spouses and families. That's actually something that we've incorporated in our, interview process. Is we invite the spouse to the interview when we're looking at bringing someone on, because being in this business is a family commitment. And I want that spouse to sit there and have the opportunity to ask me questions, and, me provide those answers to her face or his face. And I think that's very important. And, that's a culture thing. It's a little thing that you do that impacts your entire team and creates buy-in and camaraderie. And, if you don't have that spouse's support, if she's upset when her husband, is leaving in the middle of the night, that's going to cause a lot of friction for that employee. And so to me, that I love that. And I think that's a very important component to building amazing teams. So that really stood out to me. And, a lot of the things that Warner did as an owner is something that I'm looking to implement. As I meet you guys that have built wonderful companies, and eventually had the legacy event of selling that company. I want to model my company after what you guys have done, and so I just super appreciate the guys that have come before me, and I'm actively listening and looking at all times when I get to meet people like you, Warner.
TJ, thanks, man. I'll tell you, the humility that we have to have is so important. Tom, you had said so many nice things about my building. Well, I can't say that I'm responsible for all those things. That building, people call it the Taj Mahal. If I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't have done it. I mean, I would have recommended people to stay leaner, stay meaner, run your businesses with profit margins in mind, providing the best service, but not having to spend what you don't really have to in this industry to do good work.
Yeah.
However, that building is made up of ideas from restorers all over the country. I mean, I could probably, if there's something that people say, oh, I love that classroom. Yeah, well, I took that classroom from so and so, and I took that idea from so and so. And so our industry is just filled with such generosity, such humble leaders. And DJ, that's what I always encourage restorers to be. Be humble. The more humility you show to other people, we're not competitors, man. We're in the same game. We're all doing the same thing with the same problems. And if you can help somebody, you've created an alliance, you've created a partner that if in their market they ever got something that they couldn't handle, you'd be the first guy that they trust to call to help them out if you're set up to do something like that. So to me, humility is extremely important as an owner in this business.
Well, and it's one of the things too, that unfortunately there's some guys in our business that the humility is not one of their but that's part of the nature of competitive business. And I take the approach of being more humble. I have a really hard time saying and so even though in my training I don't have a group, but it's always we. And Donnie used to always say to me, you're always say we. Who's these we? And so, but the we that I always talk about is all of the people that are a part of it that might not be business partners, or they might not be training with me, but they are the reason why large loss mastery exists, for the training portion, and the reason why I'm still, consulting and everything. I'm still very active in the industry, but that's what the we is. It's all of those people I worked with for 40 years that knew much more than I did, that were much more talented than I am, but what they taught me is kind of what in Lauren Reed was the inspiration for large loss mastery. He told me, he says, Tom, you need to take everything from here and put it down and teach people, because they need to know this. They need to know what you know. And now, 10 years later, I'm like, okay, so I'm part trainer, part historian, because one day I looked out into the audience and I was looking around, and I was telling everybody the story of the World Trade Center job, which was loaded with some of the most talented people that were in this industry. Back then in 93, there weren't as many restoration companies. So the talent that you could have on one team was huge. Now there's so many companies, the talent is spread. But when I was looking out in the audience, I'm telling this 1990 story about 1993, and I would realize half these people weren't alive.
Yeah.
And that's when I started to have to, all right, so be all right with my age.
Yeah.
And because I was in denial for a while. And then I had to realize that, you know what, this is something that you need. This is your style, is you're the old guy that has funny stories about restoration and things that are real, things that work, things that don't work, why you don't, why we do what we do and why we don't do the things that don't work. But it's all of those people, it's all of the we's. And now, working with TJ, it's been a pleasure working with TJ, because, TJ took what we teach at Large Loss Mastery and plugged it into his business. And, from the millennial standpoint, has turned it up a notch. And so I'm sitting here looking at it going, wow, this is awesome, because it's the next generation of what we've done for 40 years
Sure.
that will carry on. And so it's really, really, we have a lot of fun with it. TJ's teaching part of the class now, that he created, and what he created out of what we have in large loss mastery. But it's all Warner. It's all just the stuff that, like you said, you didn't, everything that you built was all from somebody else, that you got an idea, then you blew it up into a beautiful facility. And a lot of my training is like that with Munters. Munters gave us incredible training at Munters. We trained all over the world. They are a global company. And with Sweden, their headquarters in Sweden. So we trained, we were trained in the Azores, we trained in Montreal, we trained at, just all over Italy. I mean, we're all over. And so I always looked at training like, wow. And we always tied it in with a group stuff. This was about us. This is about, getting to the answers that we were looking for, because it was senior level meetings and stuff. And so, all right, this is about us. How do we go forward? This is how we got here. This is beautiful. We got fireworks on the Mediterranean, all that stuff. But what do we got to do now? And so what I've done in large loss mastery, and everybody will see, and they see it on social media about, we're in these really cool places and doing these really cool things, and you'll see the little Astro trophy everywhere, and all that stuff comes from that training that I got from Munters. That was quality. There's Astro.
There it is.
And I was just at Planet Fitness before we got fired up on our podcast, because I wanted to get a good workout in, and I have one at my Planet Fitness, which is right down the street. And he's purple with Planet Fitness on the face, and they had him sitting on the counter today, and I was like, there he is. And so, but it's those things you're leaving that whatever it is that you're leaving behind, you're leaving that, like Warner, you've touched so many people that you don't even realize what you have truly left behind, in your steps in restoration. And the same is true for myself. I hear from guys that are doing great and all that. And I love those stories, because I'm like, awesome. And they'll call me up, and my phone is with me all the time. If they call me, anytime on the weekend, I'll answer. If I don't answer, then I'll text them and I'll call them back later. But I love, the industry, and love talking to people. And I'm really excited with TJ, starting to teach part of this class too. So T, I don't know.
I got to tell you, fellas. So I remember my first large loss, and it was a mosque, and some kids had gone in, and they hit the elevator to go up to the top floor, and they opened up the doors, and they sprayed a bunch of the fire extinguisher that throws out the powder. They blasted. They filled the elevator shaft with that, and then they closed the doors, hit the buttons, so it blew everywhere in this like Indian mosque that had all this detailed teak work that just, well, we got a phone call. The agent we had marketed to him, and he called me in, and I looked at it, and oh my gosh, I remember I hadn't done a large loss. I'd done a bunch of nice residential big losses, but this was going to be my first commercial loss. And I remember the owner of the mosque looking at me with all the answers. And I just remember trying to keep a straight face and said, this is detailed cleaning. We need to, okay, how long, how fast, what if, how much, they were asking, how long exactly. And in my head, I said, okay, well, let me get back to my truck and make some calculations. Give me about a half hour. And I remember I couldn't, I was trying to be cool and walk back to my truck, in a controlled fashion. Man, I just wanted to jump into that car and drive away. I was freaking out. And luckily, I had my mentors, Phil Roseberg Jr., who actually called me, and I said, Phil, I can't do this. This is too big. And Phil, Service Master just pulled up, and nothing against Service Master, but at the time I was a tiny guy, independent guy, and here's a big franchise in Chicago. And I said, Phil, it's not even worth me going back there. He forced me to go back there, and he says, I will stay up with you all night. I will talk you through it, and we will get this thing done. We put together a quick ROM, which at the time, I mean, this was back in the 97, 98, I mean, 2000. There's no ROMs at that time, but we put together how long, how much, benchmarked what different phases of the project, and I went in there and we won it. And all night, Phil Roseberg Jr. stayed up with me on the. I call him. Okay, now you got to do this. Now you got to do this. And then once I was able to build that, and I got the check, and then I was hooked. Man. I'm like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. So my point is, TJ, what the large loss mastery can do for people. I cannot tell you how powerful I think your program is. Letting students come in, and I'm talking to all owners right now. If you think the ticket is high, to me it's priceless. It's a no-brainer to pay that type of ticket to get the feeling of going into. And Tom, I don't know how you do it, and I'm not asking you, but how you get into these amazing landmarks in these cities. I think the Sphere, the McCormick Center, stadiums all over the country, how you're able to get in there, create a scenario, and without the panic, without the fear, to be amongst a bunch of peers in the restoration world, and to kind of learn together. You're not only creating a bond with this group, it's like pledging a fraternity. You create a bond with your pledge class because you're trying to figure it out together. Somebody's going to win the award, but just getting to the point of submitting a proposal is just as important. And TJ, with the technologies out there today, it's become even easier. So that confidence level, the ability to look an adjuster and a homeowner or a property owner in the eyes and tell them it's going to be okay. Just give me a few. Let me work something together. I don't know. Your program, Tom, I think is a game changer, and I highly recommend anytime there's somebody that's getting into the large loss and they call me for advice. I'm the first one who always says, call Tom, sign up for a large mastery class and tell me about it, because the places that you go to are phenomenal, man.
Thank you. And the key to everything in life is, and I won't give away any secrets, but it's when you're in the class, I will tell you, if you don't ASK, you don't GET. If you don't ask, you don't get. And it's that way in life, and it's that way, if you want to do something, you ask.
Yeah.
And we were just talking about that little Astro, I challenged myself. I was watching ESPN one morning, and I challenged myself. I'm putting an Astro, because I seen that they had one, but I wanted to create a custom one for them. I said, I'm going to get one on there. And if you look at Unsportsmanlike in the morning, every morning on ESPN at 6 a.m. to 8, yeah. There's two Astros, one in the top corner of their studio. And so it's like you have to look at, sometimes in life, you have to look at it and say, all right, so let's do something that other people might look at as crazy, but let's do what works. And so when we put the program together, I was like, all right, so I didn't want it to just be in a classroom to where you're like, Jesus, you're watching the clock, go by. And I was like, okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to create this class. And then, so the first one that we did was at the Superdome in New Orleans, which was one of our losses during Katrina. Right. And and so I wanted to incorporate the class, and Mickey Lee and Brad Key and I worked together on writing a curriculum for the first class. And we used, everything that we had learned in the past and brought it in. And then I was like, all right, so I'm going to do a case study. And at first it was going to be all these jobs that I had done. But then it was like, all right, so what about the places I want to do, that I haven't done yet, that I look at and it's like AT&T Stadium opens up and I'm like, wow, we got to go there. We have to do this. Then just looking around, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the out in Simi Valley with the Reagan Library, just cool venues that have like cool, things. I was like, all right, so I want to do those jobs. And believe it or not, the Reagan Library turned out to actually be a job. And in one of the guys companies that did it actually went through
No kidding.
and they actually said, Tom,
That's
that case study that we did was almost the same as it was
wow.
when I went there. And so it's one of those things. It's taking, experience and plugging it into the what if. And so I always challenge everybody. It doesn't matter if you're a small company, big company. We did the World Trade Center in '93. We were a small company, $10 million company, back then, and now there's $10 million companies all over the place. And you may not be doing those jobs currently, but it's our job to make sure that you're ready for that what if moment. When you walk into that mosque and you're going, whoa, what do we what, what do we do? That's your World Trade Center moment. And that's what we want to prepare people for, is that what if, how much, how long, because those are always the first words that you hear out of the people, out of our clients and out of the adjuster is
Correct.
how much is it going to cost? How long is it going to take? And so TJ has taken and plugged in AI into what we're doing and into his deal. So tell us what you're doing in your field now, which is really cool because he is giving the power to his technicians to now create the damage assessment scope and even the estimate at times. And so tell us a little bit about what you got going on, T, because it's really, really cool.
Well, I have to take a step back, to tell Warner about that aha moment that I had. Because when I took your class, Tom, I was only a 3-year-old company and we were mostly residential. And after taking his class, I dove head into everything he teaches and I had the aha moments. And it was the preparation of, taking the class and starting to implement it and do the things in my business that gave me the confidence to start winning commercial jobs
Yep.
and performing them well and talking to consultants and being transparent and building our reputation. And so for me, they say luck is the intersection of preparation and
Opportunity.
opportunity. And that's exactly what happened to me. You can call it luck, but I was prepared because I took Tom's class. And so I love everything that I've learned. And we're building and getting more and more commercial and we're coming. As I told all the guys at Heiko, like Patriot Restoration is coming. Um so I've taken all that and the biggest opportunity that I saw, with what you teach on the estimating and scoping side is you can give a job to 3 different people, and that scope is going to come out 3 different ways, right? And so it's like, how do you take this methodology and give it more consistency? And that's where I brought in AI into the equation to kind of standardize and structure the output of scoping. And so we've created, an AI tool that is based on a large language model that's not a general large language model like ChatGPT. It's more refined to OSHA standards, IICRC, and everything specific to the work that we do. And it prioritizes safety. And so you can do a voice recording of a scope, just walk through the story of the job. What happened? How old is the facility? What's damaged? And the AI can take that voice note, you can type it, there's multiple ways to input it, but it'll take that data and generate a structured scope that is prioritizing safety number one, but also adhering to IICRC standards. And the cool part is we've layered on top of that, utilizing square foot pricing and production rates. And so based on the input that you give the model, it's able to generate a rough draft on your ROM as well. And so I have my team testing it right now, and I literally have technicians going out in the field and generating scopes.
Wow, that's
And
fantastic, man.
yeah. And the goal is to empower my team to where it doesn't matter who responds to a job, but we can generate a scope and a number on any job on site. And that's how it should be.
What I love when I hear this, TJ, is just the standardization of large loss restoration. As JC Restoration, our advantage was being independent, and we were able to be easy. We could easily mold our bids and competing against big monsters like the Bell Forest, like the Blue Skies. Like, it was a lot easier because we were able to be very we were very creative in the way we would estimate and bill. Now that we're a bigger company, our biggest threat are the smaller independents. And what you're saying, TJ, it's like this is a way of standardizing it. It's the big companies can still do well by doing the projects in the way that you've designed the software, and then the smaller companies can do better than what they expected. Because if they are smaller, that means they have less overhead. They should be able to get really paid well to do the same job that a big company, a big national firm should do. I think it's fantastic. I think that I've said this over and over again, and we talked a lot about it at Heiko. Greed kills everything. And in this industry, we're in such a blessed industry. Disasters happen and they need immediate response, and we restorers are set up. We bleed response at midnight. Mm-hmm. And there's a cost to that, and we get paid well. So now it's our responsibility to provide the service that is expected, that is deserved, and we need to get paid well. But we cannot overcharge, and we cannot start getting greedy. And if we start bringing in our friends to help us, we can't screw over our friends because of that greed. So I love it, man. I think that is a game changer. And that's one of the things, as I'm on the sidelines now watching in, it's guys like you, Tom, and TJ you guys are creating a new way of doing work in this industry. And that's what we should all be encouraged to do.
Well, the reality is we all have the same equipment. We all have the same promise. We'll be there in an hour. We all have that same promise. We all have the same chemicals. Yep. It's like, so, okay, how do you differentiate in the marketplace from the big boys and win?
Yep.
And my answer to that is integrity and working with a moral compass. And there are a lot of companies that are not restoration born, but they're realizing, wow, there's some good money in this industry in the insurance work. Let's jump in. And it's those players that might be hurting our industry. So that moral compass, that integrity driven business model is more important now than ever.
Yep. Yeah, we have an issue down here, Warner, that has happened. One of my clients down here in Florida, because we have a lot of storms, we have a lot of storm chasers and people that come in, and one of my clients, their biggest client is senior living, and and they're very large here in the senior living. They have about 30 locations here in Florida. And, and that's growing. It's not getting any smaller anytime soon. And they don't like the word restoration. And so we started looking at this, the way we describe our services is services. We're a services company. And then we started to diversify. And one of the things that restorers have to do today is diversification. And that is, you see plumbing and you'll see roofing and you'll see, things that fit into our business model that restoration companies are adding into that. Now the big boys already do it. They already, do everything. But for the mid-level guys, this is where this year we started to introduce some ways that for the mid-level restoration guys to introduce roofing and plumbing into their businesses. And so you have to diversify because it's becoming such a competitive market. And unfortunately, I had some friends at RIA that I said that to, and they looked at me like I had monkeys coming out of my ears when I said, there's people in Florida just don't like the word restoration because they've had people come down during a storm and they leave and they can never get a hold of them when they have an issue with the work that they did. They won't return phone calls. They can't find them. And so the word restoration to this very large senior living facility management company is they don't like the word restoration. And that's unfortunate, but it's part of our growth that has happened over the years. We went from the hero phase to now we're, back in the 40 years ago, we were heroes. We showed up on the job, the adjuster, everybody, they almost had confetti out there when we come in because we were there to save the job, save the client, keep the client in business, and save the insurance company money, of course, by drying, cleaning, and not replacing. And so that's, one of the things that's happened with some of the side effects of the growth of our industry.
Yeah, TJ, I don't know about you in Tennessee, but in Chicago, there's so many restoration companies that have popped up. And I'm one of those weirdos that I know what company is coming just by the color or by the way their logo is. I study that. And the restoration trucks that I see now, many of them are just storm damage restoration, siding, gutters, roofing. They don't do contents. They don't do construction on the interior. They don't do water mitigation. So you're right. The term restoration could start being tarnished. So it'll be interesting to see how our brand kind of evolves. Yep. What we call our industry or our specialty.
Yep.
That'll be in the future.
Yeah, it's really, we're really in the service industry, and in that diversification kind of adds to that, right, to where now you're getting that phone call. I always tell the guys, we want to be their go-to. We want to be that company that they love working with so much that they're calling you on a Saturday afternoon saying, "Hey, Warner, I'm getting ready to buy a lawnmower. What do you think?" And you're giving them advice on buying a lawnmower. And that when that moment happens, you know that you have a client for life.
Right. Absolutely.
Yep. But what's I know where are we at on our time here? I always got to check. The role of AI, and then we'll start to wrap up here. But Warner, what's your? I know I think AI. It's an undiscovered world right now for most of us. It's a game changer it's the next. It's kind of like when this little device popped up 10 years or 16 years ago. This is a game changer, but it's also side effects. Because if you look at, our everybody's like this all the time, always like this on their phone, and and the way people are communicating isn't as well. Because back in the day when before the smartphone, we actually had to talk to people, and so and and so what do you think with AI? There's so much. I think AI is that moment where is a smartphone of this century. What are your thoughts?
Well, I used to be the guy that every time a new phone came out, from my Nextel to my BlackBerry to my iPhone, whenever a new one released, I was there. I needed
Yep.
my dad always hated his VHS uh, or any digital thing. I'd always be the one that would set that up. Today, I'm that guy now. Like, we'll buy something that's like, all right, you guys set it up, figure it all out, because they're just so much better.
Yep.
I'm so like, I'm inspired by TJ when I hear him talk with ease about AI, the confidence he has in that ability to, we plugged it into AI, we created some. It's foreign to me,
Yep.
and I'm in a different stage of my life where it's not as important to me before because I'm not running the show anymore. But to restorers that are participating in this podcast right now, that are listening in, a guy like TJ is so valuable. I mean, you could probably create your own consulting business, AI restoration consulting business, because many of us old timers don't know how to use AI properly. You see all this software, everything that we buy today has some type of AI component. And when you're AI illiterate, it's like, what does that mean? And do I really want to invest in trying to figure it out? If I still had JC Restoration, you better believe I'd hire some kid out of college, pay him a lot of money to go and incorporate AI into my business and help me get to the next level. So I'm very intimidated by AI in the restoration world. I know it can make a difference. I have friends that have done tremendous things with their estimates, with their protocols. They can come up quickly because they allow AI to do things. I'm able to, I wanted to write a song one day for my kids to celebrate something. And somebody's like, hey, go on this website, use AI, punch in some themes and songs. Boom. I was able to pick rap or country or a male or a female. I am so intimidated by AI, but it is the future. We definitely need it in our world. But like anything, I think that as an owner, and TJ, man, you got the best of both worlds because you have the technology, you love the technology and learning, but you're also humble. And we have to remain humble with our partners, with people that we think we're in competition with. That's how you grow quickly. I think Patriot is coming. I know, TJ, your company is going to explode because of those two things that I see: the humble leadership that I sense from you, as well as your passion for this technology. So that's what I encourage everybody to do. If you're an old timer, hire someone on your staff to be able to engage with AI. Right now, the way I use AI, what concerns me about AI, my kids, I have a 17-year-old, and she's trying to figure out what she wants to do in her life. And she's given me some careers that I immediately get online and say, is AI going to threaten this? And yes,
Yeah.
two of the three things you want to do, it's recommended, man. This is not something that you should invest your career in because AI is going to dominate that. Pretty scary stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. And the exciting thing for TJ is it becomes a competitive edge.
For
And
sure.
and that's the beauty of it is the once you perfect it and use it to build and continue to move forward, dude, it's on.
Absolutely.
Well, there's a lot of noise, or there's just everything flying in a million directions with AI right now, and the hardest part is taking that and actually building it into implementation plans in your business. And so you got to start with the low-hanging fruit. You can't just dive in head first, you know? Like this process and this journey that I'm going on is 5 or 6 months old, you know, and I'm not ready to deploy it because it's not to a point that I'm happy and confident yet. So you got to be patient. And for me, it's blocking out all the noise. You know, every software vendor that I use that's restoration specific comes out with a new AI tool like every month. And so there's a lot of noise, a lot of noise.
Yep.
So if you're listening, you're watching this podcast, get on it, get into AI, quit waiting. When mold came out, I was so blessed that DKI was on the forefront of learning how mold restoration worked out. And I was able to jump in. I remember in Indianapolis, there's a vendor there that he was able to help me, and he let me work with his crews. And man, we were one of the first companies in Chicago that was doing mold remediation based on the standards that had been created. So, don't hesitate. Don't wait and think, oh, I'll get to it later. Man, you got to jump on it now, incorporate it now, because like you said, once it settles down, all of you that have incorporated it already, it's going to make it so much easier to standardize.
Yep. We're at a crossroads with restoration because deductibles have changed in the residential world, to where homeowners look at things differently, and so you have to be very, very competitive, and you have to be on your game. Guys like TJ, and the beautiful thing about the evolution of large loss mastery, and to come back to the class, is that TJ's teaching this part of it, and it's a part that I didn't envision a year and a half ago, but as our relationship has grown, it's like, okay, this is the next message that people need to see, need to hear. And there's the old school guys have got to get on board, because the new school is going to kick your butt if you don't. And that is what is happening.
Right. That's right.
All right, guys. Well, we'll start to wrap it up. Is there anything, Warner, that you wanted to add in here at the end?
No, I'm just so honored that you invited me to participate in this. TJ, I'm so excited to continue to watch your growth as Patriot and your leadership, and the partnership that you have with Tom. Tom, I'm a huge fan, and I will continue to encourage people to join your class, because I think it's one in a million. Until somebody else figures out how to compete against you, I think you have something that's pretty darn special. And I think it's so necessary for anyone that wants to get into this large loss space. Like one of my friends, TJ, when you tell me the things that you tell me, I have a friend here in Chicago. When I sold, he came to me. He was a small time guy, and he asked me what advice I had for him growing his restoration business, and I told him the same thing. Get close to other restorers that are integrity driven, that have a moral compass, that you can help, receive help, and work together, network. And I don't know, Jorman Ramos, ACS out of Chicago, he's growing like crazy. He'll say ACS is coming, just like you say Patriot's coming. And how is it happening? It's not a tremendous marketing concept. It's the relationships that he's creating throughout the industry at RIA, at HICO, where he just ends up working with people that he trusts, that have integrity and that have a good moral compass. So I can't encourage that enough, especially for the younger stores. No one is a competitor. We're all in the same game together. Trust people, and rely on each other's help.
Because again, it all comes back to with this. We're all in this together, and at the end, it's all we. It's about all this is about us. And T, you got anything to close with before I say my?
I just I would love it if Warner came to the December class. Just throwing that out there. it's the best class of the year with the cookout and rockets getting shot off and maybe potentially fireworks this year on
Wait a
Tom's
second.
part.
Talk to me a little bit more about this cookie. What are we talking about here? Is this something special?
Well, it's our year ending, and TJ stole my thunder. Um, uh, it's our year ending class that we have every year in December. This year is special because it is our 10-year anniversary with Large Loss Mastery.
Hey,
And
congratulations, Tom. That's
thank
awesome.
you, thank you, and thank you for all the kind words and the support. This one is going to be a special one. This is our Apex Restorer course,
Okay.
and we're going to we have a cookout by the pool. So the chef brings out this huge grill, and we grill ribeyes and salmon, whatever kind of fish you want, chicken, whatever you want on there. He'll cook it, and we're out by the pool, and we have fun, and we go to Kennedy Space Center. It's a 10. We have a 10 building case study, and
What?
so yeah, so we go out to Kennedy Space Center. So there's 4 buildings out at Kennedy Space Center that are part of the case study, and then we have 4 restaurants that are over at Port Canaveral that everybody goes to on the first night. Well, on the second night, everybody goes. First night we have our cookout. The second night we go over to Port Canaveral, and I give them like gift cards so they can go to each of the restaurants and patronize. Come in and have fun. But look around and think, what if, how much, how long, what would be I give them the details for the what they're looking at, so they don't have to go around with measuring anything like that. We give them all those details so they can have fun. They can have a few drinks, they can have some hors d'oeuvres, they can eat dinner at the restaurants. And then the next building is the resort that we're at. So there's a convention center and the resort itself. And then TJ has a residential project or a small commercial project where he incorporates DocuSketch and everything that everybody's using now. But he's probably going to have some things he wants to unveil in December that he just showed me some stuff that he's working on right now. That's just unbelievable.
That's awesome.
And so I'm looking forward to seeing what he has. But that's December 1st through the 4th. And we would love to have you, Warner, to come in if you wanted to say a few words, if you want to go on the Kennedy Space Center tour, if you want whatever you want to do, come on in. We'd love to have you there. It's a great class. Everybody's at one resort. It's very affordable. It's not, we're not. I'm a practical guy, and so the resort that we're at is the Radisson Resort. They're constantly upgrading. It's an older resort, but they're always, they're going through all the renovations and all of that stuff, and so it's a nice spot. It's right in the middle of 30 or 40 restaurants, and so it's just a great spot for everybody to unwind, have fun, enjoy the moment, and learn a lot, because we're there to teach people that when your World Trade Center shows up on your doorstep, you're ready.
Right. That's right. Enjoy the moment. Man, I love that. We don't do enough of that, and we got to remind ourselves to do that. And Tom, it's funny, that shirt that you're wearing, it's like I've been wearing that all my life. I'll go to a Broadway musical. I'll go to a huge bowling alley. And I'll just look around and be like, I'm that sicko that's thinking, man, if this place
every place, every single place. And what size you wear? I'm
an XL, man. I would love one of those.
All right, you're getting it. They're really, they're nice. They fit nice. They wash nice. They're not all cotton, so they stay. The neck stays good. You don't get the turtleneck or anything like that.
Hey, fellas, it's been such an honor. It's been a lot of fun. I wish you guys the best success. I look forward to attending a class one of these days with you guys again, and hearing TJ's his AI solution for our industry, man. Because Patriot's coming, and I'm watching, man. I'm watching.
Hey, follow. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. Give us a follow.
Hey, what's that, man? Facebook?
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you,
really
Warner.
appreciate the time, boys.
Thank you very much. Have a great holiday weekend. Safe, and God bless. Cheers.
God bless you guys too. Thank you, guys.
It's a pleasure, Warner.
Thanks for listening to Conversations on the Edge with Tom and TJ. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. And if you like what you hear, leave us a review. Join us next time for another Conversation on the Edge.